Welcome to On the Chain. This is Chip. I will be flying the plane solo tonight. We got quite the excursion planned for you. First off, I want to know a little question I want to pose to everybody out there. Does a Ripple win against the SEC? Would that mean a $10 to $20 XRP? There are a lot of people out there calling for it. I'm seeing a lot of chatter over on the Twitters. Plenty of people calling between 10, 13 to $20. We're going to talk about that. Then we're going to break down a little bit some of the stuff going in and around the SEC as everybody files in here. What else are we going to do today? Well, we got a couple other things in plan too. We're going to watch a couple videos. We're going to get back to some basics tonight too. We're going to remind ourselves exactly what's going on with what we look for when we go ahead and find a particular, let's say, token and why we get behind it. A lot of it has to do with use case. That's the big spoiler. You guys ready to get going? Let's do this. Let's go.
Welcome to On the Chain.
And welcome, guys. And one thing I want to hear from you tonight, today, this morning, this afternoon, whenever you're watching the video, could be whenever. Go ahead and drop the city and the country where you're coming in from. Jeff and I always like to know where everybody's coming in from. It's a very important thing. I want to kick this off pretty quick here tonight because we got a lot of stuff to hit into and cover. But let's go into this right here. So Jimmy Filan, who you guys always know is dropping the latest filings in and around not only the Ripple case, but also the library case. He has this one right here, and I want to throw this one up here. But he put this one up, and I thought this was really interesting because, usually we don't get a lot of commentary out of Jimmy Filan, but we usually get a lot of texts and posts and stuff like that. As far as documents are concerned that hit the docket, as soon as it hits the docket, XRP community knows all about it. Look at this. We have Buenos Aires in here tonight. That is very cool. Good to see you. Look at that. Corey, what are you doing down there, Corey? Is that where you live? I know you're in here all the time. I'm not sure exactly where. We have Sydney coming in the house here, Andrew Smith. But let's break this down a little bit. So he tagged it hashtag XRP community, hashtag XRP. This is a three-pronged post here. He said, here is the SEC's argument as I interpret it. And I'd like to listen up pretty closely because we have that trio of attorneys. We have James Filan, Jimmy Filan. We have Mr. Jeremy Hogan, and then none other than John E. Deaton right there. So there it is. We like to hear from these gentlemen from time to time, but he says, and this is great. He says, we aren't saying XRP is a security per se. What we are saying is that any purchase of XRP as a matter of economic reality is an investment in a common enterprise with other XRP holders and with Ripple. Goes on to say, now, whether it's through horizontal commonality or strict vertical commonality, it's an investment in a common enterprise with other XRP holders and with Ripple. See, that's kind of like that is reverberating in there between the XRP holders and Ripple. So while XRP may not be a security per se, there's no other possible way to offer or sell XRP except, you guessed it, as a security. And when you realize what the SEC is saying, no matter how it's framed, the judgment that the SEC wants and one that incorporates secondary sales, see the screenshot below where the SEC uses the words a purchase and all units. And this is what he's talking about right here. First, the undisputed facts show, as a matter of economic reality, a purchase of XRP is an investment in a common enterprise with other XRP holders and with Ripple. All units, he wanted us to listen on that, all units of XRP are fungible with each other, and the price of all units of XRP rise or fall equally. So there we go right there. I thought we'd start out with that little tidbit right there, and we'd kind of like see where we are. What is everybody doing? Greetings, humanoids. What's up, BZ? Good to see you as well. Let's see. What's up, hands loaded? Good to see you as well. So as people file in here, look, we have El Paso in the house tonight. Yeah, I got a good buddy lives in El Paso. Beautiful. Jim D is always in here. What's going on, Jim D? And then we've got $5.89, right? So yeah, when we get into some of the fundamentals and start checking some of that stuff out. So there's a lot of ways, a lot of ways you can frame an argument, a lot of ways you can look at stuff. And I wanted to get into let's show a couple of videos here. Let's jump into some videos, back into some of the fundamentals and some of the stuff that came up this week, or at least in the last couple of days. Let me pull up a couple of videos here. I have a few of them. Let me see, which one do we want to go with first? All right, let's go with this one here. So JayVTheGreat tweeted this one out right here. And I want to go look at this because this is from, and we're going to kind of weave this together. We're going to kind of tell a story tonight, but we're going to take a look at this. This is Gary Gensler when he was, you remember when he was teaching at MIT? He was MIT. So, this was his springboard. He went from the CFTC as the chair of the CFTC, which, regulates commodities, not securities. Then he went into a teaching I guess, a professorship of some kind. And he was going to become the digital assets expert. He was the Mr. Crypto expert. And then that kind of jettisoned him from that position into the chair of the SEC. So here's the video I want to, and big shout out to JV for putting this out. But let's listen really closely what he talks about here, and let's see if he gets the facts right or not.
The token XRP and whether I think it's a non-compliant security. I've spoken publicly. Yes, I do think it's a non-compliant security. But this will not be resolved just by the Securities and Exchange Commission. It will be resolved by some courts, whether it's appellate courts or the Supreme Court. So what I believe is just that. It's a belief. But why would I say that? I think back to the Howey test. I think they are exchanging XRP. Ripple, the company, is exchanging XRP for something of value. And they're using it right now. They sell it every month. It's in a lockup. It's in an escrow. And they sell XRP every month. Ripple, the company, initially did the Genesis block back in 2013.
Okay, let's stop right there. That's about enough. It's about as much as I can take with you, Mr. Gary G. Gensler. But no, first of all, there was no Genesis block in 2013. It happened way before that. It was called OpenCoin, and it was not Ripple that set the Genesis block. That was OpenCoin, and it was gifted to Ripple. So gets the big buzzer on that one. Facts already incorrect. Let's listen in still.
But kept 80% of the tokens. Now they have about 60% of the token. But they sell it on a continuous basis, 100 million to 200 million or so a month of value. Two, I think it is relying on a common enterprise. I think Ripple,
So this is what we hear a lot about, the common enterprise. And, like I said, I see, this is good. I see JayVTheGreat in here tonight. What's up? Yeah, thanks for tweeting this video out, JV. Appreciate that. And he talks a lot about the common enterprise, the common enterprise. Problem is, he forgets about there are 4 prongs of the Howey test. He always wants to rely on this one called the common enterprise. And it's a little bit problematic in a bunch of different ways. Hey, thank you for that. What's up, Ed? Appreciate that support. Down with OTC. Much appreciated. And he talks a lot about this, but here he goes. Now, this is prior to him becoming the SEC chair. Let's see what he has to say here. Get the right buttons here. There we go.
The company.
Let's move this back a little bit.
Ripple, the company.
The company, yeah.
XRP investors are very much relying on Ripple, the company.
Okay, he's asserting here that XRP holders are very much relying on Ripple. But does he define exactly why? And most of the people, as we have heard and have discovered through through John Deaton and everybody that the 75,000 plus, most had no clue what Ripple was. They bought it because it was a digital asset, had zero clue about Ripple, the company. And guess what? When you actually purchase XRP, does it give you any rights or title to the actual company itself? It does not. It has nothing to do with it. It's just that Ripple happens to use XRP is what they use in their software. Remember, they're selling software to financial institutions, mostly like banks, and this is for what they use for the cross-border payments, and they have the on-demand liquidity. But again, what they utilize is the decentralized asset XRP. So let's hear a little bit more from Gary G. Gensler.
And that if Ripple, the company, went away, as you noted, there's not much use of XRP. In fact, for the first 3 or 4 years, or 5 years even, there was no use, and then they prototyped.
Okay, so here we go. I just wanted to You know, it's so funny because one of the quotes that we actually feature on the chain.io is one of the quotes from Brad Garlinghouse, and I'll throw this up here just because it's one of the ones we threw up here because it really is fantastic. And here it is right here on the chain website. It says, if you own a security, it gives you ownership of a company. If Ripple goes away, XRP will continue trading. Brad Garlinghouse, right? So this is one of Brad's quotes, and it's really apropos because the fact is, right, if you own a security, security gives you ownership in the company. Where's the ownership, right? And we're going to get into a little bit more of this later. We start talking about where's the contract. There is no contract, and it's something Garlinghouse is going to bring up as well in a video we're going to watch. But again, so asserting this and levying all these accusations, but the bottom line is you got to go ahead and prove it. And this is where the SEC has fallen very short. And this is why I love this quote so much. Ripple goes away, XRP will continue trading. There's zero doubt that it will continue trading, without a doubt. So let's jump back into our video here.
Something called XRapid. Xcurrent, the main product of Ripple, the company, is a messaging and apparently a clever one that's competing with Swift.
Apparently.
But Rapid, the prototype, doesn't have a large community right now. So it's highly centralized around Ripple, the company.
Okay, so this is where he gets it wrong again too. It's highly centralized around the company, not even close. And there are lots of use cases. And then JayVTheGreat and I were having a Twitter interaction. I was liking some of it, what his stuff on Twitter, and I was basically saying that, you know, there are a lot of use cases for it. JV brought up a great idea, which is why don't we do a show on all the use cases, break down the use cases. Takes a little bit of research, but that would be a phenomenal show as you break down that. And, you know, John Deaton's assembled this as well, breaking down all the use cases for XRP. And there's a lot of them. And there's probably ones that we have forgotten about or ones we haven't even thought of yet. And there's ones yet to be invented for XRP, the token. So he talks about highly centralized. What he's collapsing here is you have a centralized company called Ripple. That's the fact, but it has nothing to do with the decentralized asset. And one of the things he alludes to, did he get to that part yet? Did he talk about the nodes? Maybe he's going to get to that part. Yikes, wrong one there. Let's listen in.
The development, the node network, the ownership is 55 or 60% owned by them. They're promoting it as such, but it will be settled in some court at some point in time.
So they're talking, some point in time, it's weird, wink, wink, nod, nod, some point in time. But what he's getting into, when he talks about the nodes, I think it was just recently, I think someone did the math, and I think it was John Deaton did the math on it. It's like less than 6% for sure. I think it's between 4 and 6%, 4 and 5%, or maybe 3 and 4% ownership, whatever. No matter what, Ripple has actually vetoed amendments put up on the XRPL for to be able to pass. Ripple has vetoed them, didn't want them to pass. They don't have any say because they have such a small portion of nodes that they control, less than 6%. So how centralized is that? And what kind of control does Ripple have? And on top of it, he has a lot of the buzzwords here, so which I'll give him a little bit of credit for. And again, this is an older video going back to, I want to say 2017, 2018. Talks about XRapid, and this is before the rebrand happened, Via, whatever it was. There was a bunch of different product names that he talks about here. But one of the things he definitely gets wrong is the fact that XRP, that he talks about the escrow payments. Ripple is very limited on what they can do. And the reason they put that amendment up there was so that $1 million would come out every month. They would sell what they could, and then it would go back. That's exactly how it works. So he's acting as though Ripple can willy-nilly just figure out how many they want to dump on the market. And that is absolutely not going to happen. So he's kind of getting that wrong on a number of different ways. Let's go ahead and listen in the rest of this here.
And there might be regulatory forbearance, and maybe they'll be determined not to be, but I've expressed.
Yeah, maybe, maybe Gary. Most likely it will be. And that's pretty much what we're all waiting for. And that's where we have a lot of people out there that are, let me just go ahead and do that. Yeah, that's where we have a lot of people out there that are calling. And these are people who usually track a lot of different cryptos. And I'd see 3, 4 people that I watch pretty regularly are saying if XRP can hit, somewhere between 60 cents, 55 to 60, and maintain the next big level 7, some are calling for, some are calling to 10 to 13, some are calling for it even higher. And we've seen what a whale can do to have some influence in the market. What's going on, Bullzilla? None other than what's up? Chip is legend, Chip and Jeff, 2 OGs, XRP community. Amazing show. Appreciate that, man. Appreciate that. And say hello to the person that got it all started here for me. That is the reason that I started streaming, because of that guy right there. So there you go. Appreciate that, man. Nice of you stopping in here. Appreciate that support. But yeah, it was like, he was like, hey Chip, why don't you start streaming? Why don't you get streaming? I was like, yeah, man, why don't I start streaming? And that's how it all came to be, right? So there it is right there. Boom. So I want to jump into this next part here, because there's a bunch of different things we're going to need to break down and kind of figure out exactly how they sort of play in and what they look like together here. Let's go to, hang on, let me see here. I'm going to have to take this video out of here. We'll move that. We'll get rid of that. And I'm going to go ahead and put up another video here. And again, this goes back. We played this a bunch of times on the channel, but I want to play this because this one kind of sets the stage here. You guys are going to remember this one. This was Jamie Dimon. I'm sorry, not Jamie Dimon. This was Tim Draper. Tim Draper talking with Gary Gensler. They were on stage at a conference. This was I want to say this is before Gary Gensler got anywhere near the chair of the SEC, but here we go right there.
So let's bring it back to Jamie and JP Morgan. What do you think is going to be the thing that they will have to change the most or lose market share, and somebody else is going to do better, faster, serve their clients better than JP Morgan or Goldman Sachs?
So it's funny he's asking about JP Morgan and Jamie Dimon and what they exactly think about this. And what I really like about this is that Tim Draper takes the boom out and just slams them, just hammers them, and just puts them in his place. But here he is. This is Gary Gensler. This is this is after he was the CFTC's chair. This was, he has a little bit of a name recognition, and this is before he became the SEC chair. But let's listen to what Tim Draper says. We've heard this a bunch of times, but this is important.
You can just hear the bankers panicking right now.
But what
feel the panic in their voices. But here's what always happens. The first thing that happens is they try to go, oh, it's nothing, and they did that. I mean, that's with every new industry, every new technology comes along. The powers that be, the incumbents, the status quo, all say it's nothing. Don't ignore the man behind the curtain. This is nothing. And then all of a sudden it's too big to get in there. They're going, oh my God, I got to face this thing. And then they all line up and they wrap their.
Now, you got to remember when he was talking about this, still pretty early, right? I want to think this is circa 2018, 4 years ago at least. And he's talking about almost what happens with almost every industry. And this happened when the internet came along. People laughed at it, joked about it, panicked, not a big deal. Let's let it just go. And what he's perfectly nailing here and foreshadowing is exactly how the industry will react to it. And especially Gary Gensler. Remember, Gary Gensler inherited. He came in after Jay Clayton. But hey, look, he could have done anything, could have settled, could have done a bunch of different things. He decided not to.
Arms together and they get in there, they're going, oh my God, I got to face this thing. And then they all line up and they wrap their arms together and they say, we're not letting this happen. And then it keeps going. And then they say, okay, well, let's sue them. Or let's go get the government.
There's another thing they do. They adopt the technology. I think.
No, that's at the end.
They will adopt this technology.
No, this is the last thing they do. No,
yeah, it's like
it's after. It's after. Right. It's after.
This is what's cool about Tim Draper. Is like just keep speaking louder, over louder, and over louder, and there's Gary gets and Tim Draper's having none of it.
The press planting. They plant the press stories. They put out lawsuits. They create as much of a fuss as possible. They try to get their government friends involved. And then they go, oh, God, this thing's happening.
Jamie Dimon.
So you just see that right there? That last little bit of it. Wow. How on point is that? Listen again.
Fuss as possible. They try to get their government friends.
Try to get their government friends
involved. And then they go, oh God, this thing's happening.
Oh God, this thing's happening. We are at the oh God, this thing's happening type of a stage. Tim Draper being so far out, just calling it the way it is. And he talks about the government, talks about suing people, talks about all this stuff. And he's so on point. I want to go ahead and recognize these guys. K-HUD, thank you for that. Appreciate that support. Chip and Jeff are the two guys in the balcony on the Muppets laughing at the industry. I appreciate that. Two of the old geezers going, that was Statler and Waldorf. So yeah, that was, sometimes we're laughing at the industry. Sometimes we're laughing with them. Sometimes we're laughing at them. So thank you for that, K-HUD. Appreciate that. And then Norseman, good to see you. What's up, Norseman? Appreciate it. He says, Chip, do you think by October 22nd, the Great Pumpkin will throw the price of XRP to 60 cents? Asking for the XRP Hobnobblers. Well, wouldn't that be fantastic? Wouldn't that be? I mean, you know, if you guys know what, who knows what the Great Pumpkin is, okay? That is none other than Charlie Brown, one of the greatest classics of all time. Every year I would watch it. And of course, when you have kiddos, of course, you watch it again. And they're just not so interested as you were, because that was all for me. You know, when I, at a time when I was, there wasn't a lot of stuff going on Halloween. There were Halloween, there was horror stuff, but the Great Pumpkin. So by October 22nd, is the price of XRP going to go to 60? Here's the thing. Will it be higher than 60? Always a possibility. But thank you, Norseman, for bringing up the Great Pumpkin, something I've almost forgot about. And the XRP Hobnobblers, you know, we're going to have to wait and see on that one. Would I like to see that? Yeah, I'd like to see it surpass that. And there's a lot to go. That's 3+ weeks in our future. So it'll be interesting to see how this one actually spins out and what that becomes. So yeah, that's a good one. I really appreciate that. But I just love that one piece where Tim Draper talking about and hammering Gary Gensler. Gosh, I think I could watch that piece for the end of time. The whole interview is great, but that one piece where he levies, it just punches him in the throat. Solid throat punching there is one of my favorites. So let's go ahead, and I want to then in succession kind of pull up this one, this one is Brad Garlinghouse, and this was just on CNBC. Let's pull this one up. And again, we talk about, you know, one of the things Gensler was talking about was, you know, the common enterprise. One of the things about a common enterprise, you know, having a contract, and this is where you go back to the Howey test, which goes back to the Howey Company, 1946, little city now named after Howey, which is called Howey in the Hills. That mansion, we've had that Howey mansion on here before. It's actually like what you can have like destination weddings there. A young couple bought it, renovated the whole thing. And one of the interesting parts about that Howey case, right up by Orlando, right outside of Orlando, is that the whole idea of it was the scheme. Remember, people are losing sight. The oranges weren't the securities. XRP isn't the security. It's the scheme in which it was put together. You know, they sold plots of orange groves. You could buy the plot. And what they said they would do is they would go ahead and they would collect the oranges. They would bring in the market. They would send you a check. You didn't have to do anything, right? Boom, security. But one of the Supreme Court judges that did dissent said that, well, okay, yeah, fair enough. But there were like 6 or 8 people who decided to go work the land and actually farm it themselves and pull down the oranges and then collect them. So that was one of the reasons that there was a dissent on the case itself. But here we go into this, because this is Brad Garlinghouse on CNBC. And let's listen to this. A good clip.
You know, the SEC has made the case in its motion that that there can be an investment contract without a contract, any rights granted to the purchaser and without any obligations to the issuer. What do you say to that?
In order to have a contract, you have 2 parties. No matter how the SEC wants to spin the facts, the reality is to have a contract, you have 2 parties have to agree on something. You don't necessarily have it written. You could have oral. So
there you go, right there. And he's really, where am I? There I am. So what he's talking about here is like, you have, no matter how they want to spin it, you have to have 2 parties, right? So you can have a verbal, say like, hey, you know, I could say, Norseman, hey, you know, we're going to do this thing. We can have a verbal agreement. We could have a conversation about it, but there has to be, it has to involve 2 parties that are of the understanding. Let's go the rest of this.
Oral contracts, you can have implicit contracts, but you have to have 2 parties. The reality is there are not two. Ripple doesn't know who bought the XRP.
There you go. Boom, right there. Does Ripple know who bought the XRP? No. How does Ripple know who bought the XRP, especially on the secondary market off of exchanges? You know, you could have sent it to somebody. You could have sent one of those back in the day. We were going crazy on the Twitter sphere, sending XRP tips to everybody. I mean, what are they? I mean, how does Ripple know who bought it, right? And this is a really solid point he's making, because this one goes back to exactly what this case is all about here. Let's go listen to this.
The people who bought the XRP don't necessarily know Ripple. You have to remember that 99.9% of XRP trading has nothing to do with Ripple, the company. So when you talk about, okay, XRP is a security, I go back to something I said years ago when this started. A security of what company? Of what, like, who is the owner? So I think it's very clear there is no investment contract. If you get past the investment contract, which I think is hard, across the Howey test, you also don't have, you have to meet all three prongs. And in the case of the XRP case, you can't meet all three prongs for sure. And so we think that the judge will see that the law is very clear. We think the facts are very clear. And we think this is just a gross overreach of the SEC trying to wrest control of that uncertainty that has existed. And really the unfortunate thing is the SEC and really the US government hasn't taken this step to provide that clarity that a lot of other countries around the world have.
I mean, for years you've spoken.
Yeah, so he totally, completely nails this. I want to put this up by John Doe. John Doe says, Ripple did not create XRP. That is a fact. It certainly is. People are jealous, hating because of their own. Some other, either it was a gift. A gift was worth nearly nothing. Yeah, at the time it was worth pretty much nothing. They built value. They built value, especially when it came to their software and how they put the software together. So that right there is incredible that they went ahead and did that. Let's look through the grab bag. What else do we have in the grab bag today? Well, there actually is one more video that I wanted to put on here. Let me just go take a look at this. But we're kind of slowly building this case, and we'll get to some prices and all that. But let's go ahead and look at this next video. Let's see what we got here. Okay. Yeah. Is this the one? I'm just trying to look through this one. I think we played all of them. Okay. This one really is just like one of those non sequiturs that you throw up there. Just kind of like a funny thing. But I came across this on the Twitter sphere, and this is Chic Roberto, and this is called Bitcoin Beach. And I thought it would just be something fun to play.
In the jungle, I don't know where I am. I'm probably screwed. But I got my computer. 75 basis point. Doesn't mean anything to me. I just fishing, trying to catch a falling knife. I buy every day by sea. Lever trading. I buy it. Full force. No research. Haven't read a book in years.
Haven't read a book in years. Anyway, I thought that was pretty funny and good. And it's like sometimes you need a good laugh, especially in the market that we're in today. Well, I mean, if you're holding XRP, then you saw some green, and we've seen green a couple days across the market, which I have to say is pleasant surprise. But we always talk about the decoupling, and we've seen a massive decoupling. We've seen Bitcoin sort of drop a little bit while Bitcoin was dropping. We saw XRP rise, and we've seen ETH drop. We've seen a lot of volatility across the marketplace, but again, we're seeing a lot of positive articles come out. I want to throw this one up right here. This one here. We have, let's see here. Let's go ahead and share this on the screen. So let's take a look at this one here. Check this one out. So this is what I was talking about. XRP boost to 13. This is just one of them. But again, they're on the Twitter sphere. You can see it. Pundit outlines ultra-bullish prospect for the price milestone. And a price analyst recently highlighted circumstances under which XRP could see a boost to an ambitious $13 price mark. XRP has impressed the crypto community with this recent relief rally, surging past various resistances, notwithstanding while a $10 forecast might seem like a reach to the majority of the community, an analyst is already setting up conditions for a $13 price target. So what does that mean? Well, first of all, what this analyst is calling for has to close above 55 to 60 cents. And Synonymous Market Watcher, this is Agrag Crypto's Road XRP to 13, highlights some interesting positions. According to the analysis, 3 conditions must be met for XRP to see a rally to 13 in the long run. These conditions are intertwined, and the satisfaction of one is a prerequisite for the other. XRP drew a multi-year trend line spanning 9 years from 2014 to contextualize the analysis. And then the chart indicates XRP traded above the trend line for the most part, with rare situations of price actions below it. Chart shows that XRP is trading above the middle due to the recent meteoric rise. I gotta get that word right. XRP noted that for the asset to see an eventual surge to 13 has to remain above the middle. So there you go. So this is, like I said, here's the trend chart right there. There it is. And you can see that, what is it? Yeah, right there is on 49. It's got to close above 55 cents. But again, I'm just highlighting one of these because, you know, I can tell you for a fact that there are other people out there calling for it. I have seen it, and I like it too, because I do think that, especially given what may happen with this, with what's, I mean, it's going to take a little bit of time for this XRP you know, this whole thing that's caught up in this SEC v Ripple case. It's going to take some time to kind of work through that. We're looking at a March, I don't know, maybe March, somewhere, some are calling March. Jimmy Filan said March. John Deaton thinks it's going to be a little bit further. And then John Deaton had some tweets today that I also found pretty interesting as well. But let's get to a bit of news and what's going on in the real world. And I call the real world any place that isn't the US, where sanity prevails and there's a general understanding that XRP, not a security. So I want to jump into these stories just to kind of show you what some of the positive things that are happening. For example, Estonia issues its first license to crypto service provider under new regulation. See that? New regulation. Estonia's financial intelligence unit issued its first license to a crypto service provider on the country's new regulatory framework. Everybody has regulatory framework that's positive, except for here in the US. That entered into force in March. Striga Technology OU, the first entrepreneur who's authorized for the first time to provide a virtual currency service since the amendments to the Money Laundering and Terrorist Financing Prevention Act, the regular detailed. So again, more positive news in the real world, where guess what? XRP, not a security. Then there was this one here, Southeast Asia's largest bank, DBS, launches a self-directed crypto trading amid institutional demand. And let's focus in on that right there. So we've had a lot about consumer demand. We've talked an awful lot about consumer demand. Sure. What really drives that? Well, we look at what's happening in Argentina right now. We saw Bitso that's doing a QR program down there in Argentina, and you have 100% inflation. So of course, you're going to be very concerned about the fiat currency versus maybe putting it into a crypto. And now here we have, this is right here, this is institutional demand. So the institutional demand is really bubbling up. There it is right there. There's DBS, huge bank. Eligible clients can now trade cryptocurrency on DBS's digital exchange. The bank has their own exchange through DBS Digibank at their convenience. And I'm guessing this is probably an app. But again, this is huge. This is where the rest of the world is leaving the US in the dust because they're innovating, they're moving on, and banks are adopting this technology. DBS Digital Asset Exchange currently supports the trading of 4 cryptocurrencies: Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ether, and yes, XRP. Why are they doing that? Because it's not a security. And the only place that it's even up for debate is the US. So here we go right here. Beautiful, positive news right here. And I'm sure they'll add more over time. But for the meantime here, it's Bitcoin, Bitcoin Cash, Ether, and XRP. Previously, crypto trading on the exchange was limited to corporate and institutional investors, family offices, and the bank's private wealth management clients. With Friday's launch, DBS explained for a start, an estimated 100,000 investors in Singapore meet the criteria and thus eligible to access the services offered by DBS Digital Assets ecosystem. See, the only place there's something weird going on is Crazy Town, which is the United States, where I'm part of. A little bit embarrassing at times, yes, but it's possible that we end up getting through it. It is possible. And then I wanted to put this, and again, some of the positive things we're seeing. This one here, this is a publication called Investment Haven. And look at this headline here. XRP is back in business and it's fundamentally stronger than ever before. And it's fun to see these articles popping up in places where maybe you don't always expect them. What a beautiful breakout in XRP. After 18 months, it's clear that XRP is back, baby. It's back with a vengeance. Our former XRP forecast, serious delayed, but we continue to believe that XRP can reclaim its leadership role over time. It has shown fundamentally a lot of progress. Even if it does not succeed in moving higher next week because of turbulence in markets, we believe it will eventually do well over time. And again, this is just more positive, information that we're seeing out there. It talks about the sell-off in markets, ultra risk off week. XRP broke out, went one straight line from 33 cents right up to 55 cents, where it found a lot of resistance, of course. But interestingly, they said they wrote a new special edition to premium members about crypto investing research service the day before XRP took off. They featured a fundamental insight, which made them really excited about XRP's future. And we featured several charts, one of them the XRP BTC chart shown below. And I hit the sneeze button right in time. Sometimes you get these little sneezes that happen in time. But again, here we are with more positive, awesome energy that's coming out in some of these fantastic articles. And then there's something that, we talk a little bit about Bankman-Fried, who runs that little shindig over there at FTX network. Check out this headline. Bitcoin has no future as a payments network, says FTX chief. Bankman-Fried criticized the biggest digital assets over its inefficiency and high environmental costs. So now you can see the pylon. So let's fundamentally address a question here. When you take a look at XRP, we talked about the rest of the world, how the rest of the world views XRP. If we look at what the UK looks at it, views it as a use case, views it as a commodity. We look at Singapore, we look at it's basically anywhere in the world that's not the US. Now, what are we seeing globally? What is a universal thing that's happening globally? Well, globally, we're seeing Bitcoin be attacked, right? We're seeing it be attacked because obviously not environmentally friendly, right? It's a huge a power hog, and we're seeing this. But universally, it's almost like they got together and had this little tea party, and they decided let's let's destroy Bitcoin. And Bankman-Fried, who's sitting on this, by the way, just it's got a massive influx of cash. I'll be expecting them to be doing some acquisitions potentially, and we'll see what they end up picking up. He says it has obviously he says so Sam Bankman-Fried, founder of the digital asset exchange FTX, which I think was founded like 3 years ago, maybe 4 years ago tops. He said the proof of work system validating blockchain transaction would underpins Bitcoin, not capable of scaling up to cope with the millions of transactions, would be needed to make the cryptocurrency an effective means of payment. I mean, we've all known this for a long time, but what I'm getting at here is you're seeing this universally happen across the board, where pretty much everybody is just hating heavily on Bitcoin. Of course, myself, I don't think I've always been a fan of all crypto. You choose the one that you like. You choose the one just like a sport team. But again, I'm just noticing this trend where everybody is just they got the torches out, they got the axes out, and they are coming after it. And this kind of story just sort of proves exactly the point there. Let's go on to this one. And then if we look at this one here, this one was on Watch Your Guru. And this was a tweet of the top 10 cryptocurrencies by Twitter followers. So again, not by market cap, not by any of that, but this is just based on the world. This is across the world, top 10 cryptos by Twitter followers. This was from September 25th, 2022. We have BNB, 9.49 million followers on Twitter. We have Bitcoin, 5.53. That's a pretty big, it's almost 4 million. It's 4 million disparity right between those two. Then we've got Shiba Inu, has got 3.5 million. Dogecoin, 3.45, slightly behind. So meme coins in third and fourth place, with Ethereum in fifth place with 2.8 million. Then we have 2.54 for XRP. Then we have Crow in there, which is the Bitcoin. What is that's that one's crypto.com. Yeah, crypto.com's coin. Then Solana 2 million. The Pi Network 1.8. Well, the Pi Network, which is funny too, because Pi still doesn't have technically a use case. It's still being mined on phones all over the place. And as far as I know, it doesn't do much of anything. Then you got Polygon. So, a little bit surprising. Kind of expected Polygon to be a little bit higher in there. But look, meme coins are popular. And again, we don't know how many of these are really bots. We don't know the methodology. But what we do know is that, XRP is up there in the top 10, sitting at number 6. I happen to think there's probably more than 2.54. But again, we don't know what the criteria is for any of this at all. So let me go through. We're going to hit the chat here. See what's going on in the chat. Anything in the chat here? What do we got here? Okay, so K-HUD, what's up? He said, I'm not worried. I'm just taxing my patients, and that's okay. I'm not sure what that means, but okay, no worries. Everything's good, K-HUD. Got to like that. Appreciate that support. What else we have here in the chatters? Anything else going on in the chatters? Norseman. Looks like got a little face there going on there. Alex Sheets in here tonight. What's up, Alex? Good to see you. Kelly. Nice to see you as well. Steve Willits. Don't stake it, bake it with Polysign. There you go right there. And let's jump in here. Let's see what else we have here. Okay, I want to get in this one too. Actually, let's jump into, there's a bunch from John Deaton, and there's probably a bunch we won't get to, but I thought I'd throw this up here right here. So this is actually a pretty cool little tweet thread right here. So John Deaton says, even without an amici brief, XRP holders have already had a major impact on the SEC v. Ripple case. And as I'm reading through, this is John Deaton's tweet. He says, as he's reading through the SEC's motion for summary judgment a third time in preparation for our amici brief, I wanted to say thank you to the thousands of XRP holders who signed sworn affidavits. So that's people actually signed off on an affidavit that can also be then presented in the amici brief. He goes on to say, we submitted over 2,500 affidavits, Ripple and the SEC, testifying as to why and how people acquired XRP. Some included non-investment reasons, whether they knew anything about Ripple, which we talked a little bit about before, and when they acquired XRP and how they utilized XRP, the XRPL, and used the decentralized exchange. So why do you think the SEC abandoned the expert offering testimony regarding what a reasonable XRP purchaser relied on when acquiring XRP? And this is a really solid point right here. Let me make this a little bit bigger here. So yeah, why did the SEC abandon the expert offering testimony, right? So do you recall the litigation involved with that expert? The SEC asked for me to be thrown out the case when I asked the judge to participate. Interesting. The SEC chose not to use this expert. Recall informing that the court and this expert was offering these opinions despite not having interviewed a single XRP holder, purchaser, I should say. And if the SEC had relied on his opinions for summary judgment, Ripple had a lot to use from the XRP holders. And this is it right here. The SEC's sweeping theory is that every unit of XRP constitutes an investment contract with Ripple and is an unregistered security, even if bought and sold on the secondary market by persons unrelated and unknown to Ripple. The filing of the SEC's suit has hurt countless XRP users. 15 billion in XRP value erased overnight when the SEC filed the suit right before Christmas of 2020. The SEC's action caused nearly every digital asset exchange in the US to delist XRP except for Uphold, and also BitTrue said no. And it was surprising that even exchanges outside the US went ahead and also delisted it, which that doesn't make much sense to me. So instead, there's no significant evidence establishing XRP holders relied on Ripple's efforts or its promises and public statements. And he goes on to say that if you read pages from 53 to 63 covering the XRP holders, it only talks about Ripple and the advertising and marketing. Nothing showing that it was all successful. So why did the SEC choose not to use the expert? Because you chose to fight back. Most of the affidavits were notarized, requiring even more effort. And if you guys know, that's a pain in the you-know-what. If you got to go get something notarized, usually do it at a bank or some professional type of bill, you know, where somebody has to, you got to present ID and say, yes, I am this person who is signing this. And they go ahead and notarize, and they're licensed usually by the states here, at least in the US. And they go ahead and they put a stamp of approval on it, that they sign off, and they put it has their license number and everything else. So yeah, usually requires you actually driving somewhere and being in person to do that. So you're saying a lot of them were notarized, which required the extra effort. The affidavits were from XRP holders from over 50 countries around the world. You made the difference. And this is fantastic, because the funny part about it is, one thing the SEC never counted on was John E. Deaton, and also representing anybody who had actually purchased XRP. This was the deal maker, and probably the kingmaker in this particular scenario. And you can see that the strategy changed, and John's calling it out here, that the strategy absolutely changed with the SEC and their expert. You made the difference. That's it right there. Bam. And that's pretty, I'm trying to figure this out. That is on point. That's the way I could probably say that. And then I want to throw this one up here. Another one from Deaton. Let me see this one here. Yeah, this goes back to a little bit what we touched on a little bit earlier here. John Deaton, again, he said affidavits are from the world, are from international XRP holders. Plight is included. International holders have a right to be even more. He's got a real angry emoji there, a red-faced, angry, and he's right, because I would be even, especially since the rest of the world is in crazy town and understands exactly the fact that it's not. So you look at the UK's FCA, says XRP, not a security, but the SEC claims the UK holders are in a common enterprise with Ripple and all the other holders because XRP is a security. So yeah, this is it's just a lot of silliness going through there. I mean, it's just nuttiness. Let me see what else here. I'm looking through here. I know there was another one that I wanted to get here. Let's go into the chat here. What do we got in the chat? Anything we got in the chatters? What do we have in there? Chip headroom rocks. Yeah, there you go, Colin. Appreciate that. By the way, they are bringing back max headroom. I did read that. I don't know when it's coming back on, but they're working on it. That should be fun to see. That would be fun to absolutely watch. Oh, yeah. So you guys know that David Schwartz has been on this whole kick about AI. So he's got a couple more in line here, and I thought we should just run through them real quick. But he says a lost Van Gogh has been discovered, and here it is right there. And geez, that's weird. That looks a lot like Mr. Garlinghouse right there. But yeah, there's a long lost Van Gogh. Of course, not Vincent Van Gogh, or as they say over in the Netherlands, Van Gogh, I think, something like that. And there he is right there. There's looks like Garlinghouse playing the part of Vincent Van Gogh in Starry Night. Then he had this one up next, which was for all the Trump and Van Gogh fans out there. I don't know what that has to do with Van Gogh, but that's a little weird and a little creepy looking. Looks more like a Roy Lichtenstein type of a painting there. And then he said, here's Trump out of frame in the Mona Lisa. So I don't know. I guess I really never looked. I guess I never really spent a lot of time thinking about the Mona Lisa background. But apparently that's the background. I guess I don't know what he was doing or what he was drinking or whatever. But anyway, I thought that was a little more fun with David Schwartz. And I was going to put, I debated whether or not I would do this story, but I wanted to throw this up because it was covered in protocol. I debated whether I would do that. Before we do that, K-Hud says, I love David Swords because he doesn't take anything too seriously. Neither do I. And I would say, yeah, he doesn't necessarily take anything too seriously. And what I've noticed that David likes to do is he likes to poke the bear. And what I mean by that is he likes to be, sometimes he'll take the contrary position just to kind of mess with people and kind of just see, like, you know, let's see, let me take this contrary position. Everybody goes in and battles them. Then I'll take another position. Everybody goes and battles them. Just having a damn fun time. And you gotta just love that. And I'm with you on that, K-Hud, no doubt, without a doubt. But look at this one here. This one here, again, I debated whether or not I would do it, but I don't even know. Maybe I shouldn't do this story. Let's go on to something else. let's go look at, man, these are all kind of these are something here. Let's see. What is going on here? I don't know why I can't pull the story up, but for some reason it's giving me a little bit of trouble. See, the story doesn't even want to pull up, which is even weirder in itself. So let me just open this puppy up. Let's see what this one opens up to. Here's one. Oh gosh, what's going on here? Anyway, sorry about that. I'm having a little bit of trouble here pulling these up. So this one here, financial inclusion may be beyond the reach of CBDC. This was deep-rooted social issues need to be addressed first. It goes in to talk about the Sand Dollar Project, which was the Bahamian banking. Talked about it was meant to help people that were cashless, and it's a long story that we're running short on time here, so I'm not going to get into that. And let me jump into one of these other ones right here. This one here, it's another good one from John Deaton here. I want to throw this one up here because here we go. So this one here is another good one. John Deaton says, with Gary Gensler turning out to be the Grim Reaper of crypto, and you could say that, but I actually think it's beyond just the Grim Reaper of crypto. I think it's the Grim Reaper of anything that's good and holy or fun, because destroying investors it kind of goes beyond the realm of what crypto is supposed to be. But anyway, John goes to say that Gary Gensler is the Grim Reaper of crypto, claiming that all ETH transactions are subject to U.S. jurisdiction, and the merge to proof of stake may have triggered the securities laws. Clayton may have unintentionally provided Ripple and XRP with the gift of clarity. So there we go right there. And that is funny. Clayton may have unintentionally. And if you guys go back and you watch the shows we did right after the filing, and you watch when Jeff and I broke it down, oh yeah, we broke it down, basically the complaint against Ripple. We actually said back then, we're coming up almost on 2 years, that one of probably what might have come out of that was the fact that we might get closer, we might get some clarity faster than we can get it through Congress. And if you think about that, it may still be the case. Now, we don't know, because we'll see what happens in November. Big election and what they call the midterms, because it's the president's term. Why they call it the midterm elections? It's halfway through the president's term, and it happens to every president. And generally what happens, as just kind of your school of history, generally the party in power, it usually swings back the other way. And it pretty much always has. There's a couple exceptions here and there, but for the most part, it's a pendulum. It's swinging back and forth, and it's usually the other party, because who knows? I don't know. There's interest, whatever. And so in November, we have that party, which will usher in a new, could put the red team on top. And that's where we have a lot of the crypto people trying to push stuff through for crypto. And then we would see a change of the guard in the House of Representatives, and potentially even the Senate, which would be good, because we should be able to see some moves. But who knows? It's Congress, and at least we have a lot of pro-crypto people that are attempting to do stuff there, which I would say would have to watch this very closely. But who knows? Could something get passed before the March, April, May, or whatever? And let's figure out what happens. Maybe something happens. John Deaton said this, but is the SEC going to say, well, no, the judge didn't know what they're talking about? The judge is wrong. Let's suppose the judge comes out and says in favor of Ripple and says, hey, XRP, first of all, it's not a security. Well, the SEC can always appeal. They have the right to go ahead and appeal, but I don't think it's going to really matter at that point, because once this thing's put in motion, they can appeal it all they want. Will it be overturned? Could be. Could also end up at the Supreme Court in the U.S. as well, and I don't think it'll fare so well there either. So could they do that? They can keep fighting, but at least what would already happen for, at least in the U.S. and probably much of the world, and we would start seeing a rally. I would imagine a rally, because when you're looking at $1,200, $1,300, $1,400 E, $20,000, $30,000 Bitcoin, and some other altcoins out there, a $5 XRP is a steal. A $10 sounds like a really good bargain, and a $15 XRP sounds really fantastic, especially if you know that has the potential to 5, 10, 15x all the way up. So you can see where where it certainly could make just a massive difference on that front itself. And there's another story in here. Let's see. Let me see if I can pull this one up. I was having a problem with this other link here. Yeah, it's still another long story, but it gets into the whole idea of privacy. It was a really good one. But unfortunately, what I'll do is I'll drop the link in there if you guys want to read this one. This is a good one to read. It's just too long to kind of cover and really do it justice here. But I will drop it in the chat so you guys can go click on that right there. It's very good. Expanding cracks threaten the privacy preemption legislation compromise. It's a very well authored piece by Andrew Long. Thought that was pretty good. And let me see right here. Okay, so this one here, debated whether I do this or not, but again, here we go. There we go. Ripple's chairman funded a 1,000 camera surveillance network. Now the San Francisco Police Department can watch it. Okay, so let's break this one down a little bit. What we've seen happen in San Francisco is a lot of crime. Crime is rising. It's on the up. So Chris Larson, he funded, one of his companies funded these cameras. Now, here's what happened. So it wasn't Chris Larson that funded these cameras to be used by the police. It was absolutely not. That wasn't its intention, because these are private. So these are private. He funded a network of security cameras throughout San Francisco for a decade. This has been going on for a long time. Now, the city has given its police department the green light to monitor the feeds from those cameras and any other private surveillance. Let me put this bigger. Sorry about that. In real time, whether a crime has been committed or not. So what started out as creating a network of these private cameras has absolutely turned into something completely different. And, you know, this probably well unintended, but because the crime's up and everything else. But the San Francisco Board of Supervisors approved the controversial plan to allow San Francisco Police Department to temporarily, we've heard that before, right? It's always going to be temporary. Listen, they're going to take the U.S. off the gold standard temporarily because of speculators. Not forever, just temporarily. Don't worry about it. And then, 50 years later, it's temporarily still off the gold standard, the U.S. dollar, right? So they said they're going to temporarily tap into this surveillance networks during life-threatening emergencies, large events, in the course of criminal investigations, including investigations of misdemeanors. The decision came despite fervent opposition from groups including the ACLU of Northern California and the Electronic Frontier Foundation, which say the police department's new authority could be misused against protesters and marginalized groups in a city that has been a bastion for both. So yeah, this is what happens. Sometimes you got to be careful. Sometimes there are unintended consequences, and what starts out as one thing becomes something else. And so you have the ACLU involved in this thing. You've got the Electronic Frontier Foundation, and then there's a lot of people that are unhappy about this because they say, don't worry, we're only going to use it for this. And then somehow it ends up turning into something else. So that's why there's always going to be consequences. So sometimes you got to think through it to make sure that you get it right, because otherwise it can be misused and it can be taken advantage of. That's all I have time for tonight. I want to thank everybody for being here. The On the Chain crowd, the family of On the Chain, the best and brightest out there. Love you guys. Love you guys coming here. Thank you for spending this hour with me and listen to me bloviate and talk about what I love to talk about, which is near and dear to my heart. And, blast Gary Gensler in the process. Always a little bit of throat punching here and there, which is a lot of fun. K-Hud, thank you very much. Thank you On the Chain. Appreciate that, K-Hud. And we get to do it again. This Wednesday, we will not have a show. Jeff and I are just kind of tied up. I don't mean physically tied up, but we've got a couple things going on. So we will be back on Saturday. We'll miss Wednesday, but we'll be back on Saturday with another phenomenal show set up for you guys. And Jeff and I will be back. The two old guys yelling at and laughing at everybody. So we'll be doing that. So I want to thank everybody here today. And listen, have a good night, everybody. Good to see you, Alan. Take care. Have a good one. And I will see you on the next one. Chip out.
Are you down with OTC? Please like, subscribe, and click the bell to be notified when the next video drops.